Welcome to another episode of What's Up Doc? I am Tanya. Now, when you think about sport, you may not necessarily think about this activity. I'll give you a hint. It involves a pool, but maybe not in the conventional way that you may be thinking about. Let's get into it. Today, I'm joined by professional ballerina turned pole dancer, also Pilates instructor, Kate Ningsi Kwan. I'm here today in Harlow Studios, and I'm so happy and privileged to have Kate with us today. Welcome, Kate.
Hi, thank you, Tanya.
So Kate is actually Holland-born.
I am.
She moved to Trinidad as a young little girl.
I did.
And she's going to tell us all about the different countries she went to before she ended right back here in beautiful
Trinidad.
Twin Island of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah. So at the very beginning, was born in Holland, moved to Trinidad, and then we did a good few years out in the Far East, so Bangkok, Singapore, and then we went back to Europe, to Scotland, and then over to the States, spent a little time in Africa, and then moved back to London where I met my husband and had our children, and I've now been living in Trinidad for close to 6 years.
Wow.
Yes.
So Kate, you're a professional ballerina. Now, as
Was.
someone who's done, or was, fine, but I like to say is, because as someone who's been exposed to ballet as a Trinidadian, it's very difficult for people who've been exposed to ballet in this country. And we look up to people like you who've had opportunities to do ballet abroad. So tell us what it was like to be a professional ballerina.
Well, I guess I take it back to when I was a kid, really. And I first learned ballet in Thailand at 3 years old. My first ballet teacher was an actual ex-dancer of the Royal Ballet. And she told my mum that I had natural turnout. And now when I was younger, I was quite stocky, and so definitely not the ballet body that is deemed appropriate. And I think my mum scoffed when the ballet teacher told that I had natural turnout. No, my mum went, I think you've got the wrong child. And so then really and truly it just kind of went from there. And every country I moved to, the first thing my mum did, because she saw the sort of love, and it was the one consistent thing in my life where I was able to have ballet with me all the time. So no matter which country I moved to, and I lost friends and everything, it always just stemmed back down to ballet. It brought me back down. And then I guess by the time I was 7, I knew that I wanted to be a ballerina. So I started training really hard. Ended up in a small American company in Houston. And then decided I needed to do some more training, so moved to London. And that's unfortunately when I found out I had hip issues that I was actually born with and exacerbated by ballet, which resulted my career to end by the time I was 19, 20 after my first surgery. But unfortunately it didn't ever fix it, and it took about 8 more surgeries and learning how to walk again for me to finally know exactly what the diagnosis was with my hip and the issues.
Wow.
So yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the outcome of that surgery. Do you have implants in at the moment?
Yes, I have 4 5-inch titanium bolts holding my right side together. They did some major surgery on my pelvis, which was a year-long recovery process. Extremely challenging, I think, mentally and physically. And I guess in a way it sort of I felt slightly resentful the fact that they didn't know what was wrong with me at the very beginning for me to be able to continue my career. And it took another 9 years after I was told I'd never dance again for them to finally come to, well, hips, as you know, are very mechanical. So hips are really fairly not as discovered as knees, and it's not as easy because it's the main weight-bearing joint in your body. So it was definitely a bit frustrating for me to not have the sort of outcome that I would have liked, and I certainly didn't take my professional career as much as I would like. But I think when I moved down to Trinidad, I still never really, I'm a believer that everything happens for a reason. And until I moved to Trinidad, I never really knew or understood why, after someone like I did worked so hard at what I wanted to do, that why was it taken away from me? And I finally realized when I moved down to Trinidad that it may be because maybe I'm not meant to let my dream happen, but maybe I could in fact help another child's dream happen, because dance really isn't viewed as a career down here, and you must be a doctor or a lawyer or an accountant, and the arts and the industry of that is such as it's a nothing. And I guess for me, it dawned on me that I could actually make a change to a child and help them succeed in something that maybe they never thought they'd be able to do. And I guess this is what this place is about.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about ballet in Trinidad. I mean, the Caribbean culture and the Caribbean physique is a little bit different.
Yep.
And we tend to, whether it be stereotypical or not, we tend to think that a ballerina is a thin, tall girl.
Yeah.
Tell us what you think about that and if you plan to make that a little bit different.
So for me in my head, well, let's start with ballet down here. I guess ballet down here, I think what I am trying to do with my studio is to, I guess, look at ballet rather than getting a piece of paper from an examiner. And a lot of RED syllabus is taught down here, which is wonderful, but really and truly, to be a professional dancer, it's really important to have unset work, because if you were to go away and do a ballet class, the ballet masters literally will give you exercises off the bat, and you must remember that. Yeah. And unfortunately, with the ballet taught down here, sometimes I've found that you're spoon-fed. It's similar to the education system, actually.
Absolutely.
It's kind of spoon-fed, and whereas a dancer, you have to express, you have to learn how to act, you have to be able to pick things up extremely quickly. Your brain has to be on the ball. You have to understand and break down. And as you know, being an ex-ballerina, you also know that the physics you can apply to it is really quite something, and you can actually break it down into torque, momentum, and the placement of your body. And I guess I'm really trying to encourage that aspect. I'm encouraging forward thinking when it comes to being a dancer. When it comes to the size, I think ballet, thank God, is actually changing its way and its stance. Yeah. When it comes to, what I'm really pleased about, actually, one of the biggest things that's been a problem for me in my head is that we have so many colors dancing now. Yeah. And I think biggest thing that I'm really pleased about are finally the big brands are starting to encourage different colored point shoes, because ballet is all meant to be one line, and that's when it used to be a very white form of dance, and I hated that. And I'm so happy now where we get all these gorgeous colors of point shoes and tights, and it's encouraging children of all different ethnicities to come forward and try it. And I think us as a community, and especially in a country like Trinidad, where we are so blessed to have so many, a melting pot of wonderful backgrounds, I kind of really want to encourage children of every background to come in and try dance, but also to be comfortable within themselves and their own skin, you know. And I think that's really important as a dance teacher and as a dance studio owner, to really try and bring out the confidence, not only in girls, because as you know, boys are also able to dance. And I guess changing that stereotype as well, that, you know, to be a boy, you shouldn't do ballet, whereas some of the most amazing, talented, strong men I have ever met are ballerinos.
Absolutely. So you're talking about, you said something about confidence. Tell us a little bit about what you thought or you feel currently are the benefits of dance, not only ballet, but just dance in general. How do you see it impacting on little children?
Well, I think for kids and adults, really, because as you know, the school teaches adults and children. We have beginner ballet classes for adults. And I've had women that have never danced before. They've always wanted to do ballet and they've never done it before. And I go, well, come. You know, what have you got to lose? I mean, and what I love about this space, and especially in the adult school, the camaraderie that is built in all these classes, as you know, because you come and take classes here. Yeah. The camaraderie that everyone just comes in, leaves everything at the door, and just comes in and just be themselves. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. For kids, the benefits of dance, I think, I mean, there are so many.
We'll be here all day.
Yeah, confidence, the ability to remember things, the discipline, the musicality. I mean, the list could go on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get to your transition from ballet to pole, but before we get there, I just want you to talk a little bit about Pilates, because Pilates is something that I believe is a little bit underrepresented.
It is very underrepresented.
It's something that it uses a technique that is actually medically proven.
Anatomy-based.
Exactly. It's anatomy-based to benefit health and to benefit people who have injuries, to benefit all kinds of people. Tell us a little bit about Pilates and your involvement in it.
Okay, so I started Pilates because when I was still living in London, I told my husband I was quitting my job.
I am quitting my job today.
And I literally did that. Next day I handed in my notice. Actually, we were in Trinidad on holiday, funnily enough, and I told him I was quitting. And when we went back home, I went, right, I'm done. And so Pilates started because I like the anatomy side of things. And obviously, having been injured, it sort of really spoke to me on a deeper level than something like yoga. Which is also extremely beneficial, but I guess in my head, because I'm sort of more body aware, I needed to know the anatomy and the breakdowns of everything, and I really like knowing everything. So I ended up training in mat work Pilates, and then I had my first child, and I ended up doing pre and postnatal Pilates as well, and then I did injury rehab and prevention as well. And I guess down here Pilates is definitely not encouraged enough, I think, by the medical professionals, because in the UK, the NHS hire Pilates instructors throughout to help. And actually, a friend of mine just helped somebody stop their lower leg getting amputated by getting the mind back connected to the body to be able to help him start moving the leg again. It helps people with heart issues, back problems. I mean, a huge range of different issues I think Pilates can help. So if you get a good Pilates instructor, essentially, you can help fix certain issues with your body, and especially one that can kind of really fine tune and see the smallest things. So if I get a client who comes in with an injury, I'll do an assessment, and then I'll start building an entire Pilates-based program around them. Pilates is obviously core-based, but actually what Pilates really encourages the control aspect of each individual muscle, whereas a lot of trainers and whatnot will target the big muscle groups, your biceps, your triceps, your quads, your core, which a lot of people tend to just associate it with the front, but it's actually from your back. It's this entire section, front and back. And Pilates helps target all the small muscles that help support the big muscles, which is really quite helpful.
No, it is, and I think just as you're talking, I'm remembering, because obviously I take classes with you as well, but I think you have this skill to take the knowledge of anatomy and represent it to somebody who may not have that understanding. So for example, you describe the umbrella, like closing the umbrella to hold your core in, just to describe the action.
There's a lot of visualizations you have to key. There's visual keys, and obviously I think as a good teacher you have to learn how to see from someone whether they're understanding what you are saying. And so with the training that we had in the UK, it's really quite in depth, and you have to take anatomy exams, and if you don't pass that, you don't move forward. So it really is quite intense. And I've done a lot of research as well on my part, outside of the training. But the key thing is people are not as in tune with their bodies as someone like you and me, who are very accustomed to learning what our bodies do because of the dance aspect of things. And a lot of people don't have that. And I guess for someone like me, I know that. And I try and give keys, and if I see them still not clicking, it's to go, right, let me do another one and see if we can get it that way. And sure enough, after a while, you can start to see the brain finally connect to the body. Yeah,
absolutely. So Kate, we're going to get into your career as a pole dancer, but before we do that, we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back. Welcome back to What's Up Doc. I'm here with Kate Ning-Si Kwan, and she is a professional ballerina turned pole dancer. We spoke to her a little bit about her ballet career. We spoke about her transition from the United Kingdom to Trinidad, and now we're going to talk about her transition into pole dancing. So pole dancing is something that's probably a bit foreign to a lot of us. It was even foreign to myself. And there's a lot of stigma attached to it, but Kate has brought this sport, and I say the word sport deliberately because she's going to tell us a little bit about pole as a sport as well. So Kate, tell us about, she's laughing, tell us about your transition from a professional ballerina into a pole dancer. Yeah.
So I did pole before I moved to Trinidad with my best friend, Sarah, who's also a dancer, and pole. And when I first did it, she said, Kate, you're beautiful on the pole. And I went, okay. I think I learned how to walk around the pole, and I think we did a couple of, very simple steps and whatnot. And then I ended up having our second child. And anyway, so that kind of ended that. And when I moved down to Trinidad, I was doing ballet quite a lot, and I wasn't feeling challenged anymore. So I had this harebrained idea, pole. And I didn't tell my husband, and I called Sarah up and I said, hi, Sarah. I'm like, when you said I was good on pole? And she said, yeah. And I went, if I bought a pole, brought it into Trinidad and trained myself on pole, do you think I could set up a pole school? And she went, well, if it's anyone, it's going to be you. So needless to say, I got off the phone, went to Wayne and said, Wayne, I am buying a pole. And I brought it in. I trained for 8 months, most nights after I put my kids to bed. Got on the pole. Blood, sweat, and tears would probably be...
And I think you literally mean blood.
Quite literally blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah. A concussion that Tonya actually treated me for in A&E.
We won't go into that.
It's definitely been a journey. And I opened up my pole school in another studio before we moved here. And really, pole for me has been one of the biggest challenges, I think, mentally and physically. Obviously, there is a stigma attached, but to be honest, there's a lot of differences when it comes to pole dancers across. Pole stemmed from the exotic dance field.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's something we have to remind ourselves. I mean, there's the Chinese pole dancers that have been doing it thousands of years as well, but really it stemmed from the exotic dancers in the States. And they are the ones that ended up transitioning it into pole sport. It is now being watched as a sport, which means that they are doing a lot of sporting activities. There are a lot of rules and regulations, which I hope kind of doesn't detract away from the sport. As we all know, that kind of tends to shift sometimes with new sports coming in and on the light.
Correct, yeah.
And essentially, I teach pole sport and spin pole. Although one of my most favorite forms of dancing on pole is sometimes exotic, which is just as beautiful and balletic as well. So I really take a lot of my training and I kind of apply it into all 3 different styles. So pole sports is on static, which is very gymnastics. Then you have your spin pole, your spinny pole, which is where the pole is actually rotating, which obviously then creates a different standard of strength because you're working against momentum at that point and still having to turn yourself upside down and take yourself away from the pole. And then you have your exotic, which is when you're in your heels. And so there are the 3 forms of sport. But with the pole sport side of things, they do have a lot of regulations. So if any exotic moves are taken, you will be marked down and whatnot. So they are very strict within their sort of competition based.
Right.
So really and truly, pole has become my new passion, which I have to say I never thought would ever be possible considering I love ballet so much. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship sometimes, as you know. Some days I'll get off pole and I go, what on earth were you thinking when I'm ripped to shreds and I'm bruised black and blue? And I go, why are you doing this? This is not particularly fun. Yeah. But then the next day the pole goes back up and you go back on the
Somehow pole. You end right back up on that pole.
You feel like you've been run over by a dump truck some days, but then you wonder why you can't get your shirt over your head. So, I mean, it's definitely been a journey, and now we've really kind of pushed the barriers down here when it comes to pole. I mean, there are a couple of other pole schools as well that were in before me as well, to be fair. But we really kind of encouraged everybody to join pole. And what I love when I look at my classes, just such a mix of women.
I was just about to ask you that.
Incredible. It's so amazing.
Tell us about your clientele.
So, I mean, we have women that are from 18 to 55-year-old women in my pole classes. And some of the 55-year-old women are in my highest class. Those are my powerhouses. They've been with me from day one. All different shapes, all different sizes. Women that have found confidence within themselves doing it. It's become a really safe space for women to come and do something that they never thought they could
ever do.
I mean, and again, we are very, we run a warm-up, we have pole conditioning. It is run exactly like a sport to manage injuries. There is a huge technique with pole that people are not aware of, okay? Because the thing is by the time you get to the top of the pole and you need to invert, you need to learn how to get up to the top of the pole without exerting too much energy to then be able to do all your tricks and transitions. There's a massive amount of technique that I think people are very unaware of, which is what we're trying to sort of bring to light.
So you mentioned technique, and a lot of people think that to go up on the pole, they need to be strong, they need to be flexible. So they think, okay, that's not for me.
Well,
I'm not going to try
to
it.
teach them.
Absolutely. Yeah. But some people are so afraid of the pole.
I think it's not just that as well. I think it's the actual their insecurities about their body, rather than the thing that they can't do it. I think it's you have to wear shorts, because if you don't, you're going to slide off the pole. You cannot do it in leggings. Sometimes you have to pull up your top to show your midriff. And what I love about this, and this is something that I've always mentioned, is when the people first come and try pole, the shorts are really long, they wear long t-shirts, and then all of a sudden they realize, this isn't going to work anymore. And so the shorts start to come up and go a little higher, and then they feel confident to take off their tops. And I absolutely adore that. I think that's such a beautiful thing, but you don't need to, obviously, it really comes down to the mind strength, okay, I think, because pole really is mentally challenging. And it's frustrating because, especially at the beginning, you slip and slide all down, you don't have the grip strength. But this is why the teachers under Harlow Studio are all trained to be able to teach from the ground up. So we don't just, we level off our classes, so you come into level 1. And unless you tell me that you've done pole before, really and truly, I begin you in level 1 to retrain you, because sometimes the training isn't exactly what I would like to see. So I really want to get them to understand it.
We're excited. Well, I'm excited, first of all, because this is something that I tell people all the time, try pole. They don't believe me a lot of the times because they're afraid. So I'm really excited for you to show us something. Is this something that are you gonna give us a little taste of what it's like on the pole?
I can definitely try to do that. Yeah.
So we are so excited. I'm so excited to share with Trinidad and Tobago pole as a sport.
Yep. Which is now what you were a part of as well, aren't you?
Exactly. So I am part of the Pole Federation, Pole Sports Federation, Trinidad and Tobago. So we're excited to share this with you, and I'm going to get you to get up on the pole for us.
Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you have it. I'm here with Kate Ningsi Kwan. She is a professional ballerina turned pole dancer. Stay with us because she's going to show us a little bit about what it's like to be up on the pole. Hey guys, thanks for watching this week's episode of What's Up Doc. See you next time here on WESN.